First and foremost, let's talk about our latest episode 180 with Matt Blanton. All right, so Matt is a super cool guy. Now, I've met and spoken to Matt a couple of times. I know his business partner, Corwin Smith, who's also been on the podcast as well. They're with a company called Culture to Cash, basically business consultants, business coaches that help businesses improve and maintain their culture, among many other things. And I'll get into that in a second here, but my conversation with Matt was a little bit different. I ask everybody what they're an expert in when they come on the show. And Matt's, right out the gate, Matt's answer was really intriguing. He said he's an expert in elevating the consciousness of business owners. I'm so excited. From the first sentence, elevating the consciousness of business leaders. Like, man, if I could put that above my bed in my bedroom, I would. But that's awesome. So before we just kind of dive into everything that we're going to talk about, what would you say by the end of the episode, right after listening to us talk and go back and forth and me ask questions and you give answers, what do you hope that our listeners will take away from this episode?
Ultimately, just every time they come across an opportunity to learn or an interjection of thought, it's a pause. It's a pause in thinking and a way of thinking. So my hope for everybody listening is that we just take that pause and we figure out prospectively, what is there for me? What does that next step look like? So wherever you are in your journey, just finding that next step. There's people that are building massive companies and they're really feeling in a place where they're energetically like elevating in their consciousness. And there's others that, hey, I've got to focus on what's here in front of me right now. It's very difficult and I'm kind of in the trenches, but the next step for me would look like this. So whatever it is, just finding that next step.
I thought that was an interesting way to put it, not a way that I've heard before. And it was really intriguing because in the world of business, I don't think we put a lot of emphasis on that kind of mindfulness, consciousness. You know, it's kind of a buzzword in the esoteric community when you're talking about meditation or psychedelics or just any pseudoscience or what could be considered pseudoscience or metaphysical type thought process. So I thought it was really interesting right out the gate that he chose to use that word consciousness, but I also love it. I really do. So consciousness is something that it's kind of, I don't want to call it like a passion, but it's more of a general wondering. We hear all this stuff in business about how, we need to be curious. We need to ask good questions and things like that. And I think that asking good questions is only possible if we're interested in what we're asking about. It's definitely an art on how to ask those questions and how to do it correctly, but it's really hard to be curious about something that you're just not interested in. So, but this topic of consciousness in business was really intriguing to me because it almost brings an aspect of wholeness, to business ownership, something that we don't talk about a lot, something that I don't think is interwoven as much as it probably should be. So just the fact that, he says he's an expert and this is what he specializes in is elevating the consciousness of business leaders. To me, this means, getting business owners, entrepreneurs, founders to be able to take a step back, right, and look at their life as a whole, but not only just their life, right, but their place in it. Their business's place in it and what that means for their future, for their success, for their fulfillment, and even more so like the fulfillment of the people around them. So the second thing he said was he helps people see beyond themselves, right? Which it's really easy as humans to kind of be self-serving in a lot of different aspects, I think. And now there are some empaths out there, and it's super easy for them to, see into the feelings and the hearts of others. And, some people it's way more difficult. But the next thing he said after that was he helps people see the me before we. So almost contradicting a little bit, but he really used it in a sense of like, hey, how can you help yourself so you can help others? right? Which is really virtuous, I think. And there's this dichotomy of, selfishness versus empathy, and, kind of that balance there. And this is a really good way of looking at it. It's kind of like putting your own oxygen mask on first in the airplane, right? Airplane's going down, oxygen mask comes, and first thing you want to do is put it on your kid, but you can't put it on your kid until you can breathe yourself, right? So it's one of the takeaways I got, and I think it's really interesting to have the concept of, kind of making sure our own porch is clean before we try to help and serve others. And man, I think it's probably an area that gets missed more than it doesn't. In this day and age, with everything that we have coming our direction from every screen imaginable, our phones in our pockets, our computers, our television sets, our tablets, radios, and even the cars have screens in them now. And it's just, gosh, everything, everywhere we go, it just seems like a fucking download, right? So it's really easy to get wrapped up in the external and forget completely about the internal. And so that's what I really loved about this episode. And Matt's work is that he helps people focus on the internal, right? So they can influence the external. So let's see. A couple of the other things that stood out to me that he was talking about was, he said it a couple times. He said that we've got to figure out how to create space. So what does that mean? And Matt's not the first one to talk about creating space, right? And this is something that actually my coach, recent coach, Trip Lanier, has kind of said to me as well. And I think he said it in his episode. If you haven't seen that one, definitely check it out. But we don't have a lot of space these days. We don't have space for our mental capacity. We don't have space for our emotions and our feelings. We don't have space for, even physical stuff like our family and our friends and our businesses. Sometimes it just feels like everything's so, I don't know what the word is, crammed together, maybe, and it can get kind of crowded, right? It can get kind of claustrophobic, and we can lose sight of our priorities, what to focus on first. I think was the premise of what he was saying, right? Is that with so many different triggering aspects of society right now, between politics and religion and technology and business and all of this kind of stuff, it's like, man, there's no space here, to just be me, right? To be curious about me. And so, I think that impacted me a lot as well. Just a friendly, gentle reminder to make that space, right? Go step outside, right? And go into a quiet room. Be with yourself in the dark, right? Breathe a little bit. It's just something I can feel right now. This is the first time I'm doing one of these solo episodes. I always have somebody that I'm talking to other than the camera. I always have a guest, so I can even feel it here. Like, I got to give myself a little space right now to be nervous, to breathe, to make sure my thoughts are clear and articulate, so I can feel like I'm actually giving value. So I think it's worth noting, and it's worth kind of trying to discover yourself, whatever that looks like, however that means to you. So I think one of the things that he said in that was forgiveness, right? Forgiveness for yourself and for others, to help create that space, right? Sometimes we hold on too tight to the past and we worry too much about the future, and we just need to, just need to breathe. We just need to understand that it's okay. We got to trust ourselves, right? We got to trust who we are tomorrow. We got to know that whoever we're going to be 3 weeks from now is going to handle the things that come up in 3 weeks, right? And that doesn't mean we should lose sight of what we're doing in the future. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't plan for things. It just means that, maybe we shouldn't live there yet, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I think I'm rambling at this point, guys. So, so just a lot of good takeaways from that episode. I know I didn't get it all, but that's kind of the premise on what it was about. That's kind of, what Matt was about. He also kind of went into a little bit about how sometimes to expand consciousness, plant medicine can help in some aspects of that for some people in the right context, of course. But really, really interesting angle, looking through that kind of stuff in a different lens is sometimes helpful. I know for me and for a lot of people out there, just, searching for that wholeness, searching for fulfillment, and, really just wanting to be at peace with where they are, where their business is, where their family is, if they've got a family, all that good stuff. So anyway, if you haven't checked it out yet and that kind of stuff intrigues you, definitely check out episode 180 with Matt Blanton. And I don't know. Let me know what you think of these little short little episodes. All right. Thanks for listening.